Hello Israel, it's me, Red Planet, coming to you again with another video. This is Fair Use with TV. Let's get into it.
So there is this realm of the unseen where there exists a hierarchy of spiritual forces, ancient entities that influence the world in ways most people never realize. The Bible speaks of them as powers and principalities, which refers to more than just earthly rulers. There are supernatural forces, the architects of deception, operating behind the veil. They manipulate governments, shape ideologies. They fuel the conflicts that have plagued civilizations for thousands of years. Now, some believe these entities are fallen angels. Some see them as interdimensional beings who want to control the material world. But it's their influence that stretches across history. It's in those secret societies, those occult traditions, some of the things that make up the very foundations of our society. The chaos we see in the world isn't random. It's orchestrated. These principalities are the real puppet masters behind war, corruption, and suppression of truth. When we start to recognize their influence, we begin to see patterns, recurring cycles of deception and control. And if we better understand the nature of these forces, then that is the first step in breaking free. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.
I have to finish this paper. I'm swamped. No one told me college would be so damn.
Just get Grammarly. It's free.
Can it help with what I wrote last night? It only took 3 coffees and some cheese.
Many people have noticed that throughout history, civilizations have risen and fallen, guided by unseen forces pulling the strings from the shadow.
You know, the only ones who's pulling the strings, who's the overseer over the higher up, is the fallen angels. Dictating, telling them what they want to do, what they want done, what they want to take place, or what they want to happen. And these puppets here do as they're told.
At least that is what many people suspect. The concept of powers and principalities isn't just a religious idea. It's an idea for understanding the hidden forces that shape our world. Ancient cultures spoke of gods, spirits, celestial beings who influenced kings and rulers. In modern times, we see these same influences manifest through secret societies, secret agendas, mass manipulation. We see the decline of morality and truth. So these entities operate through systems, governments, media, financial institutions, even religious.
They rule everything. For now. Everything. They have their hands in everything. Food, clothes, music, entertainment, like he said, sports, news anchors, everything. They have their hands in everything. Like I said, they're just puppets for the higher overseers and the fallen angels. Because when they failed, they had knowledge to do just about anything. They were taught that in heaven. So they can pretty much have them do anything they want to do, really.
Organizations. I've gone over that before. But it's all done to make sure that we remain trapped in cycle after cycle of ignorance and conflict. When wars break out, economies collapse, society turns against itself. And how many of you think that is all by chance? How many of you think there is something orchestrating the chaos? If you know anything about the occult or esoteric teachings, you know that these principalities thrive on power and control. And they can achieve that.
And as long as they got that, they can rule. Comfortably, they can rule. It's all about the power and all about the control. And as long as they have that, they're going to continue to bring chaos on the world.
Through fear. Some traditions describe them as ancient intelligences.
But that's just it. Nobody's walking around in fear anymore. We're not in fear anymore. Used to be fearful of everything. But now that our eyes are open and our ears no longer are shut, now we see and hear everything. We're not walking in fear anymore. See, TikTok has woken people up that were asleep. So now we see and hear. No one's in fear anymore. Only them. What do we got to fear?
That feed off human suffering, creating division to maintain their influence. This is one of the main reasons why history keeps repeating itself. Why tyrants always seem to rise, why deception is embedded in the highest levels of power, and why certain bloodlines and elite groups seem to be untouchable. From entertainment to politics, the education system, global conflicts, all designed to keep humanity asleep. Because there is a greater spiritual war taking place. Now, the world is divided by borders, right? Lines drawn on maps that separate nations, cultures, and people. But while these divisions may seem political or geographical, they're really more than that. They serve a deeper, more insidious purpose. Powers and principalities don't just influence individuals, they rule over entire regions. And they shape the destiny of nations through unseen spiritual dominion.
If a man really hated ads, here's what he would do. Day one, he would install Pi on his computer without spending a dime.
If we go back to ancient times, many civilizations believed that different territories were governed by distinct spiritual beings, often referred to as gods, archons, or celestial rulers. The Bible itself speaks of this in the book of Daniel, where the Prince of Persia and the Prince of Greece are mentioned not as human leaders, but as powerful spiritual entities influencing their respective empires. If these forces were at work thousands of years ago, what makes us think they've disappeared today? Look at how different regions of the world seem to...
They haven't. They haven't. They're just like in the dark, in the shadows. But they haven't. They see and hear everything.
Be trapped in specific cycles of war all the time. The Middle East is a good example of this. There are spirits of war governing that region. Poverty, oppression, or ideological extremes. In some areas, authoritarianism thrives, with governments enforcing strict control over their people. And we already know the regions who have that reputation. In other words, chaos reigns, as if lawlessness has been allowed to consume entire populations, right? Some places seem permanently locked in religious or ethnic conflict, while others are centers of financial power, where we have greed and corruption ruling from behind closed doors. These patterns are not accidental. This is the influence of principalities that establish strongholds over regions, feeding off of the suffering and the fear and the division that they create. Think about how world powers interact with one another. They have meetings, don't they? Alliances and conflicts that seem to repeat throughout history. The same empires rise, fall, and re-emerge in new forms, always maintaining dominance over specific regions. Western nations have always been associated with the spread of materialism, entertainment, cultural influence, keeping populations distracted and spiritually numb. The Middle East has been a battleground for millennia, as if something unseen is perpetuating conflict to prevent peace. Asia has been a place of authoritarian control, as if forces are working to either enlighten its people or suppress its people. But it's not just big regions either. There's a hierarchy of spiritual control here. Even on a smaller scale within individual countries, these forces have their domains. Certain cities are known for being centers of corruption, while others seem to be places of addiction, moral decay. This is why certain places
And we all know, Israel, who's making that happen, who's causing that to happen. We know who's doing it, because it ain't us.
have this stench. This is why when you drive into another state or city, it has a different smell and a different energy that you can feel. It may be subtle, but it's there. Meanwhile, Some places have a heavy spiritual atmosphere where people report feeling a deep sense of oppression or darkness. Have you ever visited a city or country that immediately felt, or when you went there, you immediately felt a shift in energy, as if something unseen was influencing the people and the culture? These are the signs of territorial spirits, forces that maintain their grip over a region from behind the veil. Many ancient cultures believed that when people crossed into a new land, they were entering the domain of a different god or spirit. So they would have to give offerings or perform rituals to make sure they had safe passage. Even today, there are strange stories of travelers who experience strange phenomena when crossing borders, as if stepping from one spiritual jurisdiction into another. The Greeks had gods assigned to various cities, such as Athena over Athens. You see? Have you ever noticed the eerie patterns in the way power is structured? Some cities seem to be the centers for global influence. Places like Washington, D.C., London, Rome, each tied to significant occult or esoteric symbolism. Many ancient sites, such as the pyramids of Giza, Stonehenge, or the Vatican, were built on locations believed to hold a lot of spiritual energy, right? Societies or secret societies and elite organizations have long been suspected of understanding these forces and using them to their advantage. Think of borders as spiritual checkpoints, places where the influence of one principality ends and another begins. Some people believe that those in power have been aware of these spiritual rulers since the beginning, and either work in alignment with them or attempt to manipulate them for their own purposes. And so, it's likely that certain leaders knowingly dedicate their nations to specific principalities in exchange for...
That's why it's not good to make deals with principalities, demons, or evil spirits, or what they call familiar spirits, because you don't win when you make, especially with them, deals with an entity. Never turns out good, Israel, because you don't win. They know this. That's why their kingdom is falling. They know as long as we still have TikTok, then the eyes of our people must continue to be open. And they know this. So this is why I say they know what's going on. They know what our agenda is, and we know what theirs is. Now we know what's going on.
Power. Some historical figures have openly engaged in occult practices, and many influential organizations have ties to mysterious rituals that may be connected to invoking or serving these entities. And they really don't have much.
And that's never good, Israel. It's never good. Not even to summon demons, because you don't know what their intentions is. I mean, you may have an intention or agenda to do one thing with evil spirits or familiar spirits, but then they have another.
Choice, as these entities do nothing but lie. They absolutely do lie to these men and women in power and to anyone serving them. Remember I said that there is a hierarchy for these entities, and the ones people deal with in a more personal space, they operate the same way, play the same games, tell the same lies. So now the question then becomes, how do we break free from these strongholds? Well, we first have to recognize that these principalities operate through the systems of the whole world. Governments, economies, media, and even religions. In other words, awareness is the key to breaking down their influence. The rulers of this world don't want you to see the strings. But once you do, you realize you are not powerless. You have a choice to remain in the system or to rise above it. I bring this topic up because I want everyone to be able to navigate this earth with a bit more confidence and clarity. I want all of us to be able to see the code of the matrix. This way, whenever you want to travel, whenever you go out of town into unfamiliar territory, you will understand that there is a different presence, a different spirit that rules over that area. Just like when you travel to a different country and the laws change, that's one of the reasons why the laws change. If any country thinks they have the best laws, why doesn't every country have those same laws? They don't, because of powers and principalities. And it will always be that way unless something changes in the...
And it all depends on the evil that's in that state too, Israel. Because the more evil it is there, the more evil spirits that's going to be there. The higher the evil is, the more the principalities is going to take place in that state.
Spiritual realm. People do blame the devil for a lot of things, right? So, deep down, they do have an understanding of the powers that work behind the scenes in the darkness. It's interesting. It's a very interesting thing that people actually think that we are being governed by humans. Anyway,
We're not. We're being governed by the fallen angels.
That's going to be all for now. I always appreciate all the comments and the likes. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Woodward TV is also available on Rumble and Brighteon. You can also follow me on Instagram at jwoodward. Everyone have a great day. Enjoy it. And until next time, friends,
Much love, Israel.
stay awake, stay